I have done 13 internships in my college. So UI UX is the thing, is becoming the thing, right? The next big thing for designers, and everyone was jumping into it. I made my own AR exploration, right, and I uploaded it on LinkedIn, which got I think 9 lakhs view and 23,000 comments and 500 more reposts and stuff. So, also there's a Udemy story about, I have published courses on Udemy. There is a big disconnect when you see all these workshops, all these courses that promise to teach you UX and UI, right? They do not talk about what is really going in the industry, right?
Emerging technologies, right? हमको already पता है कि we should be gearing towards working for the emerging technologies like AI, nanotechnology, the metaverse, so that when the job market shifts, we are not left behind doing the menial work, the grunt work for those jobs. Now, how do you do that if you don't want to code or don't know how to code? What are the jobs there are? So the guest we talked to today was or is a product designer in the AR field. Now, what AR is, we'll explain in a bit, but you've seen it, you've interacted with it because Instagram, Snapchat, companies like these, they use AR in their filters. Now, uh, Kritika, our guest, is also a very proficient teacher. So she has a course on Udemy, which will link down below, that you can check out, and you can learn directly from her. You can take it out directly with her, and she is now building a following on LinkedIn, which I'm sure will grow with her brand, and uh, you'll get to know more and you'll get to learn more from her. Now, in this interview, we talked about a lot of things: personal branding, uh, obviously AR, design as a whole, the designing domain as a whole, and we definitely think you like it. And if you have any feedback, please let us know in the comments below. Now, uh, this is Ashwani here to explain to you what AR is.
Episode, there are few terms which you should know, that is the AR, VR, MR, and XR. First is augmented reality or AR, which is nothing but just digital elements generated in your real world. So, for example, using your phone or a AR headset, you can see the world around you, but there would be traces of digital elements placed in your world. For example, you can have a sofa being placed in your living room, which is not real but is completely digitally generated and is placed somewhere around your coffee table or something. Then comes VR or virtual reality, where you are transported to a completely digitally generated world. So it completely blocks off the real world you are in. And while wearing a VR headset, you enter into a state of like a video game or a movie where you control those things. So that is virtual reality. Then comes mixed reality, which is a mixture of AR and VR, where there are elements of real world and digital world both, and they both can interact with each other. For example, if you wear an MR headset, you can have or any HMD, you can have like a digital ball bouncing on your table. So that is MR. And finally, there is XR or extended reality, which is just an umbrella term for AR, VR, and MR together. That is all the immersive visual technologies.
So, Kritika, will first start with just a small, brief view of your journey, and would like to understand what has your journey been like, and how did you venture into AR specifically?
Yeah, so it has been a very challenging plus rewarding journey for me because I've always put myself into a very challenging position, and somehow it has worked out for me and given me an unfair advantage over everything. Right. So I come from a design background. I have done my bachelor's in design, right? And a very funny thing is that I have done 13 internships in my college. So just to know that, what I don't want to do ultimately, right? Because when you come to any field, talking about design in general, right? When you come to college, there is just farrago of design and fashion talks going on, right? And you get very confused as in what to do, what to choose as your career option, right? As same as engineering colleges, right? You come through electrical, but you end up in CS, right? Somehow you end up coding, right? So for designers, it's similar, right? So I had all of these opportunities. People were, coming out of XYZ backgrounds in design and fashion. So I was like, I really want to know what I want to get into ultimately, right? So I have done internships in styling, fashion, graphics, anything you talk about, right? I've done that, right? So in my third year, my seniors were, talking about this new field. At that time, it was very new, right? Comparatively, right now situations, right? It was very new, so I was just hearing about how UI UX is the thing, is becoming the thing, right? The next big thing
Hmm.
for designers, and everyone was jumping into it, was jumping to learn it somehow, right? And I helped my seniors to make few projects, and I figured that it was lying perfectly with my interests, because I had two research papers in my college. I purposely took those, right? Because I love to do research. I had research, and I also loved doing graphics, and it was just a perfect marriage between the two,
Hmm.
right? So I learned about UI UX like that, and started got to know about few designs resources, right? And I got to know that these are the people who have started or already working in this platform, right? And LinkedIn YouTube became a very big source for me to know all of these people and the online resource materials, right? So I
Hmm.
started learning about it. I thought that this is something I can do, right? And I vividly remember that it was quarantine time when I had graduated, right? And I gave myself 3 months of time where I wanted to switch to product design, and I
Hmm.
had no background, right? So I'm a self-taught designer,
Got
right,
it.
in product designer. But obviously, coming from a design background helps to understand the nitty-gritty of design, right? The basics of design. So obviously it helped, right? Seniors helped because I was in the that set of networking people, right? So I gave myself 3 months, and those 3 months I just solely dedicated learning and building my portfolio, right? After which I sent a lot of cold emails. I applied for jobs on all job platforms, right? All portals. And I landed up to in my first job, right, as a product designer. And it was travel industry based product designing job, right?
Hmm.
And 7 8 months down the line, I was bored. I was like, this is not something I want to do, cause
And what did that involve? Wo travel mein product designing, what does that mean? Was it a
so
website?
that means, let's say there is a product designer for working in MMT, right?
Hmm.
Make. So those designers are specially working in travel industry, basically how to get more and more users to buy tickets, book a hotel, right? These things. Right. So I was working in that industry, and it was very. I'm sure many people like that, right? But I think it was not for me. I
Hmm.
got bored because everything was screen based, right? Everything you were designing, users used in on their phone or website, right, on their desktops. So it got very boring for me. And I was also, I'm active on LinkedIn, so I just keep exploring anything new comes, right? So I found few people who were making AR exploration, just random exploration that they used to make. So I thought, and when I used to check those profiles, I saw that all those people were developers, right? So I thought, how do I learn this without learning coding, right? Because for a designer, it's a whole new world, right? And not everyone can learn coding like that, right? So I thought how to make that, and at that point, I was just exploring AR while I was, getting bored of my current job, right? So it was going like that, and I made my own AR exploration, right? And I uploaded it on LinkedIn, which got, I think, 9 lakhs view and 23,000 comments and 500 more reposts and stuff. So, and everyone was just asking me, how do you make that? How did you make that exploration, right? And I thought that okay, so there is a gap, right? People want to know this, but there is no one to teach them this, right? Also, there is a very big curve that a designer needs to take to learn this. And what I had made was, just using Adobe Aero. It is a prototyping tool for AR,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So I learned, I saw videos, and I just learned it how to basically prototype AR, right? And that, I think that was a eureka moment for me, because I realized that this is something I am liking. I love to do, I love to put myself into challenging situation, or if there is a design use case or a problem statement for me which is very difficult, right? So I like that because it pushes me a lot,
Hmm.
right? And obviously in those challenging moment, when you push yourself, you learn, right? So I was just I was just not just liking that rush I used to get with those challenging
Hmm.
problems. And I just kept going. I made a few more projects, and I just decided that I want to be an XR designer, right? Which we can call spatial designers as well, right?
Hmm.
So I decided that I want to do this, right? I started learning more about it, read more articles, did courses, right? And I made my portfolio entirely that screamed that I am an XR designer, right? I made
Hmm.
everything. I changed my entire online presence according to that, right? My LinkedIn, my Medium, my Behance, right? Everything was like Kritika is an XR designer, right? So yeah, so while I was, also there's a Udemy story about, I have published courses on Udemy which solely talks about how to become an XR designer, right? How you get into UX, that correlates or talk about AR VR in general, how to get into AR VR industry, right?
And those courses are without coding, so people like
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
from 2 years ago can access it and learn to
Yeah,
build
yeah.
the kind of portfolio that you have built.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No coding required whatsoever.
Got it.
Anyone can do that, right? So while I was, learning, I felt that there's a huge gap between, a person trying to learn something and a person actually have learned something, right? So the information out there is still out there, right? Obviously, everything is just Google search away,
Hmm.
but there is no platform that actually talks about everything. So
Hmm.
when you talk about AR VR, right, especially for a designer, right, you need to understand the UX behind it, right? So few platforms were there where people used to talk just the UX, right? Few
Hmm.
platforms were there who just used to talk about tools, how to make that thing, right? But there were no any course that talked about, how to make a use case, or how to, cater for both the theoretical knowledge and the practical knowledge, right? And the courses that I did were very boring, right?
Hmm.
And people, no matlab, no hate to those people, but you also need to relate to the person to learn something. I feel in my case, I feel I need to really understand this person or the teacher basically, right? And the person
Hmm.
needs to teach me according to how I want to learn, right? I think this is a very big gap between the entire teaching industry or education industry, right? Teachers wants to teach students as they want to teach, not how the students wants to learn, right?
Hmm.
So let's say if there is a student who likes to, uh, you know, uh, get many examples, and that is how they absorb any knowledge, right? But the teacher doesn't give us an example, right? How will the
Hmm.
student learn efficiently, right? So I feel that whenever you are teaching something, you need to make the person comfortable, and also you need to understand how are they learning, how are they able to absorb knowledge, right? And I think you should moderate your teaching according to their absorption factor, I would say, right?
Hmm.
How they take in the knowledge, right? So I thought there is no course available online, and was becoming very difficult for me also to learn things, right? There was just scattered information out there which I was collecting,
Hmm.
right? At that point I thought, why don't I make a course like that, right? And at that point it was very difficult for me because I was working, right? And I remember that I used to wake up at 5, I used to shoot, I used to write content, and again do my office work because it was all work from home at that time, right? And remember that I think two 2 months around, right? I shot 2 courses, right? And it took 2 months of time, and
Hmm.
2 months were like this only, right? And now that people share their experience, their feedback, and they share the certificates that they get after they have done my course, it feels very nice that I did that. So yeah, I think it
Yeah.
was a very nice journey for me, and I'm sure that it will be a nice journey for me moving ahead.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
sure.
So also, Kritika, you mentioned about Adobe Aero.
Mhm.
So we know that there are some differences between how we design for like normal 2D screens, which you did in that travel work you mentioned, and how
Mhm.
you are currently doing in this AR VR field. So what
Right.
are the most challenging aspects of designing specifically for AR VR or any 3D environment?
Right. So, this I tell to all my mentees who are getting into XR, right? People should really understand what they're getting into firstly, right? It's not the same design principles that you follow for mobile or desktop. It's a whole new world, right?
Hmm.
So when you are designing for screens, you are just taking care of the information that you put out on the screen, right? But when you deal with AR or VR, right, information is out there in the physical world, right? You can obviously experience that through your phone, through a headset, right? But it also basically there's a communication going on with the graphical user interface, whatever you put in the object or the virtual object you put inside the experience, and also the world space. That means it can be the physical space, right? Now when it's physical space, it's obviously AR, right? Where the moment it is taken up by virtual space, it becomes VR, right? In a very simple terms, right? So when we are designing for that, we need to understand how as a human we respond to our physical space and also the virtual
Hmm.
object it is placed inside that space, right? So it becomes very difficult when you talk about 3D space. Like things are continuously moving; they are not static. So which means the interface that you're putting on the screen, let's say in AR, right? That is obviously the background keeps on changing. So the kind of UI you put on top of the screen should be a balanced UI which doesn't hamper the things you see in the physical world, right? In AR, right? Same with VR. Obviously, it's a virtual world, but it should not hamper your experience. You came to experience something. It can be a meditation app, right, where you just hear good noise, good music, and see something which can be, how do I explain that? Uh, like there's an app called Maluka. It is a meditation app, right? And
Hmm.
this is a VR application that we are talking about, right? And it really transports you to a physical, in a virtual space, right? It's a very abstract world, I would say, right? And they slowly and very subtly teleport you to that space, and they also onboard you very very smoothly, I would say, because obviously a person wearing a headset, right, doesn't know what they'll witness inside it, right? So onboarding becomes a very big problem because VR or AR is still there, but not has been mass adopted. As in, people know that what AR filters are, right? But they are they are still, there are still unknown factors like what is the real use case of it, right? People think that this is gimmicky, but there is a lot of good use case or benefits of these technologies, AR and VR, right? It's already been helpful in a lot of training in health, right? And I'm sure that in the future also it has a huge impact over us, and it will be in the future.
And Kritika, in terms of this adoption over the next few years, AR/VR obviously has been around for some time now, and even after like large corporations talking about it, that adoption has been quite slow. But suddenly, due to this Apple Vision Pro coming up,
Yeah.
there was a huge buzz. But again, I'm feeling it's slowly dying out, at least from my perspective. For the outer world, which is not involved in AR/VR, थोड़े दिन के लिए वापस boom आया था. But again, I don't see a lot of news there. Like, what's your take on Apple Vision Pro? Do you think when it finally arrives, there will be a lot of adoption? And like, what's your view on that?
Uh, so I'll tell you this, this observation I made, right?
Hmm.
So Apple also very recently launched their Apple Watch Series 9, right?
Yeah.
And what really caught my attention was the double tap gesture which you can do,
Hmm.
right, while you're wearing the watch, right? And
Hmm.
the same gesture is in Vision Pro,
Hmm.
right? So I think that Apple, I'm also very curious about how Apple takes this up, right? Because I know that they are doing something really amazing in the background which we are not aware of, because obviously Vision Pro is there but hasn't been launched to the public, right? So I feel that they have, they understand that we will move out of mobiles and desktops, right? And also they have completely removed the controllers, right? Your hands are now controllers, right? So
Correct.
we will move out of glasses and pixels, and our flesh is a interface now, right?
Hmm.
Everything you do, the gestures you make, right, is the interaction with the computer interface, right?
Hmm.
So I'm very curious to see that how they integrate this gestures in across their line, right? Because again, they have introduced this double tap which is there in mouse and Vision Pro, right?
But do you feel that this gesture thing is better than having controllers? Uh,
Any day,
okay.
any day, because so various different devices have different controllers, obviously have different functionality and buttons, right? It
Hmm.
is very difficult for a user to relearn everything, all the buttons, all the controls, right? But
Hmm.
nobody can take your hands, right? It is always there. So the amount of devices you can reduce, right, it is, I think, according to me, it's great. You
Hmm.
just have to wear the headset maybe maybe 10, 20 years down the line, they completely remove the headset and make something uh, groundbreaking. It can also happen, right? Because I give that benefit of doubt to Apple. They are completely disruptive and they can do anything, right? But I feel that they have, they have thought of these NUIs, which is again a new, very new concept, which is natural user interface, right? So it is basically the communication that happens with the humans and the computer interface intuitively, right? So let's say if you had to click something in the world space, right? What will you do?
If I have to click something in the word space, meaning
Yeah,
I am in
you
real
are
life.
wearing a headset, or
Okay.
let's say you have to,
Yeah, I would
click,
like to be able to do this, like it's shown in movies.
right,
How
right,
I did it.
and this similar pattern you do while you switch on, switch off lights,
Hmm.
right? So as humans, we know that this is a very intuitive action that we take to
Yeah.
start or switch off anything, right?
Hmm.
So building on these, right, I think Apple is trying to make a very interesting communication channel, right, which will be very intuitive for the humans, right? And I feel that and obviously we will be using the Vision Pro headset, and I have high hopes for that, right? I'm just very curious how the gesture that Apple is introducing, how they integrate the same thing across their line of products,
Got it.
right?
So, do you believe that in future, like how we see in Iron Man movies or something like that, will we have like some glasses through which we can like do stuff? And is that the future to go, or is there any other alternative?
I think it's not completely ignorable or hard to imagine, right? I think it's doable. Because
Yeah.
just imagine it's like saying 20 years back that internet won't be a thing or people won't use mobile phones. Now mobiles are like attached body part, right?
Hmm.
It's 24/7 with us, right? And at that time people were there who said that people won't use a mobile phone, and look at us now, right? So I feel like it's very much possible. Obviously a lot of things that we do comes from aeronautics or military, right? And then movies are the platform that exaggerates that tech and shows that to us through action movies, sci-fi movies, right? But I think down the line it's very much possible. And Meta has already collaborated with Ray-Ban for these glasses, right? So I think it's very much possible.
Got it. I think I think we got a nice overview of AR VR, but we also find key like you as a person and your way of doing a course, building a personal brand, etc., has also been very interesting. Uh,
Right.
we want to also understand you have a really good amount of following on LinkedIn, which then allowed you to make a course and was maybe the driving factor of you starting this journey, right? So, like, how did you build such a following, and how was it engaged enough to respond to that post you made? Like, how do you if I'm a person who wants to maybe start a side career, like, what should I start posting on LinkedIn, for example?
Right. So it was not always like that. I have good amount of followers, but it came after I started that I need to give back to the community, right? So as I told you with that post, right, AR exploration, I got a good amount of followers, but not what I have right now, right? But coming to your personal branding question, right? I feel that I am a product, right? And the strengths I have is a feature that I have to launch, right? Now I can launch this, I have to decide how I launch these features, right? I can decide how I talk about it, right? To what audience I want to enable that feature for, right? So I feel that that what your strengths are, right? But you want to let other people know about it, right? And personal branding becomes that communication method you do, right? So it shouldn't be like you put fake content out there, right? You have to be honest, right? You have to put out authentic self, right? Which I feel I do,
And
right?
with this authentic self, though, like generally people say that, am I even an expert to comment on this? Like, who am I to post about this? So, what is your advice to those kinds of
I feel, I
doubts?
feel, I feel that our brain is programmed in a way that we always questions our ability, right? Our
Mm.
brain always is in that safe, comfortable mode. The moment you decide to do anything new, right, your brain will tell you okay, stop, is this comfortable for you, right?
Mm.
This is a very new concept for you, are you ready for this, right? And through these triggers, right, you stop, you don't take that action, right? But you can be a fool for 5 minutes, you cannot be fool for lifetime, right? If you are putting out content, right, which can be wrong, right, but be open to feedback, right? Correct that, learn from it, right? And
Mm.
just, right, it cannot be the factor which stops you, right? I have seen people who feel like, I've never started writing anything because I feel, how will people react to it, right? Am I good enough to write about it, right? I always say, to these people, right, why are you letting your brain control you? Obviously, it controls you all the time, but it shouldn't be a, stopping factor,
Mm.
you know so I feel our brains are all programmed like you have to save yourself. You cannot let other people belittle you or say that you're not good enough. So you just you give this constraints to yourself that you shouldn't go out of these things because there is a boundary which you're comfortable and you're safe inside, right?
Also, Kritika, talking about personal branding,
Hmm.
what tips do you think you can offer to the professionals who are looking to enhance their presence on social media? Also, do you feel your personal brand, how has personal branding helped you professionally or in other areas of life?
Right. So personal branding has helped me plenty because now in my network I know a lot of good people, good famous and accomplished people. Right. I know that there is a large amount of designers, right? Good designers that world know about that they have worked on a lot of unicorns, right? And not even unicorns, just a good firm about, right? I know them, right? So that has enabled, personal branding has enabled for to enabled me for putting a best self out there so that people know that, okay, Kritika is this and she is a XR designer, right? So yeah, and also that if you are not able to find the right company will find you through personal branding, which I feel, right?
Mm.
uh, so it has helped me to get jobs, right? People, the current company I am in, right, I didn't
Mm.
apply to them, they found me on LinkedIn. So now it's a perfect marriage. So I feel that personal branding has helped me a lot, and I'm just trying to build a community, right? And I on LinkedIn and Medium, right, I have a I'm just actively writing on Medium whatever I know, whatever I want to give back to the community, right? I'm just doing that. So I feel people are aware of who they follow, right? And obviously they should be. You
Mm.
didn't absorb anything that is out there on the internet, right? You should filter out what works for you, what not, right? And I feel because I put good content, right? I think that is why I'm getting followers over the platforms that I talked about.
And then coming to how that transitioned into building your own Udemy courses. Now there are thousands of students. I think you've already answered ki why did you start Udemy? Because there was a
Right.
gap between how courses are taught. You wanted them to be all in one place.
Right.
But on that engagement wala part, ki teaching differently, how are your courses better, more engaging, and like what's your approach to that?
I feel you should use easy words, right? You should be giving relevant examples when you teach, right? Because obviously, people who are coming to learn something, they do not know about that thing. Some people can be completely from a different field, right?
Mm.
So to make everyone comfortable, right, you need to have relevant examples. Your teaching method should be comfortable, right? You should be understandable, right? I feel like.
And so you basically don't assume that they know a lot about the field or have any prior skills. Like, what
Yeah, yeah.
skills do you expect them to have before, for example, signing up and being able to learn the course?
Completely nothing, actually. You
Okay,
don't need to know anything, you just need internet and a desktop. It's just that.
got it.
Right. And it's very, it's bad to assume that a person knows something or doesn't know something, right?
Mm.
I think you should be, be rational, be completely impartial, and just teach the way you would want to learn, right? So whenever I teach something or tell anyone something, I just try to be very comforting, and I try to make them feel that it's okay to not know anything, right?
Mm. Got it.
Yeah.
Also, one more thing. regarding our previous conversation about personal branding, if someone wants to like create his own personal brand, what would your suggestions be for the same?
I feel when you are trying to, let's talk about LinkedIn, right?
Right.
When you're trying to build a profile on LinkedIn, right? Your bio, right? Your activity, which is basically your article, post, your comments, like you do on LinkedIn, right? It should be filter out for your audience or your niche, right? So engage as you can, right? You can comment, you can put out your opinions, suggestions out on LinkedIn posts, right, which other people put, right? You should also have, I think, opinion. Having an opinion really lets you build a nice personal branding, right? You can put anything. I think anything, any new launches come, right? People want to see how people are translating it, right? How people are
And by
giving.
having an opinion, do you mean having like a taking a side कि vision pro खराब है या तो अच्छा है,
No,
not being
no.
midway? Okay.
I think you know it's like you heard something, right?
Hmm.
And you made an assumption for yourself, right? Let's say if I told you red color, right? After hearing this, you will imagine something, right? It
Hmm.
can be a red balloon, it can be a red crayon, right? It can be other things, right? But if you said red balloon, doesn't makes you wrong, right?
Hmm.
It is just how you
Interpret.
interpreted that, right? So it's like that. Obviously, don't be like very rigid and be very fragile. Okay, I cannot take this.
Hmm.
Right, the thing that I'm saying is right. Right, it's not like that. Right, it's not always black and white. Right, so just be open to feedback. Just hear what other people are saying. Right, because obviously there are some smart and intelligent people out there who can help you with that, with something, right? There are industry professionals who are experts, who are working in the same niche that you want to get into, right?
Hmm.
And I know that people are out there who really wants to help, right? You just need to get in touch with them, right?
Right.
So I
Uh,
feel slowly you know, your bio, your the picture you put, the things you put out there, right? It all, you know, talks eventually how you are on the internet or how you are in person. Obviously, people assume, right?
right. So, for our viewers, can you tell what is the process of maybe creating a course? Like, how can?
Uh, Okay,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I did, right? So it was obviously a first course of mine, and I was very skeptical about, you know, how or I mean, what kind of guidelines I should follow, what standard it should be, right? Because where I put was Udemy, right? And different platforms have different guidelines. I went to Udemy and read all of the guidelines, right? The video quality, audio quality, etc., right? Then when I learned about guidelines, I learned about, you know, videography, or how you really shoot yourself, right? Because I was filming for myself, so I had to understand how to place a camera, how to fix a mic, you know, things like that. So I learned that. I learned about equipments because that was very new for me, right? Then apart from this, there was another line which was going along with it, which was content writing and planning, right? Basically, I divided things into chapter so that as we move in the course, people will learn more and more, and eventually what they will take out of this course will be a, you know, nice exploration or a complete build form of it, whatever they learned through the entire course, right? So I broke it down into courses, into chapter, and then I wrote you know, content according to that, and then I filmed myself, right? I learned about how to do lightings and stuff, and I filmed myself. And then I also gathered you know, assets which goes with the video. That means any relevant videos, any relevant images, assets, you know, any voice over something, things like that, right? I gathered that, and then I got the entire video edited.
And just now looking back, so as a product designer, you have come to the path of AR VR.
Right,
Generally, for product designers specifically, how should they go about finding their path if they, for example, don't like their current job? How
right.
do you, your passion turned out to be these visual 3D spaces, like,
Yeah.
and but how does a product designer approach this?
So I feel that people are easily influenced, right? It's always grass is greener on the other side, right? So to know that something will really work for you, you have to learn about it, right? So I have seen that people from a lot of industries come to product design, right, with little knowledge that what they are getting into. Right. So those kinds of people, I really want to say that, it can be a very daunting field or it can be a very harsh field, right? But and some people are good with that and they are okay with taking up those kinds of challenges, right? But just be mindful of the fact that what you're getting into, learn about that, see and account both pros and cons of the field, right? And then eventually decide and put your 100% to know that, right? So I feel that a lot of graphic designers or architects come to product design, which is completely fine, right? But just be mindful of the fact that what you're
Mm.
getting in, right? Some product designers do not like what they're doing, right? But I think shifting to another career is a very challenging call, a very bravery act that the people take, right?
And to be mindful, they should talk to people who are already doing the jobs. Like, how do they?
Yeah, obviously. So there is a big disconnect when you see all these workshops, all these courses that promise to teach you UX and UI, right? They do not talk about what is really going in the industry, right?
Mm.
Talk about these double diamond where you define, discover, write a problem statement. It's not like that. Industry doesn't work like that. People think that they have to make a persona, they have to make user flow IAs, and somehow they'll end up making those beautiful good screens, right? It's not always like that. I've seen portfolios where people work in they backtrack things. Basically they design screens first and then they make a user flow and then they try to capture a problem statement which what they have made relates or lies on, right? But it's not like that. Industry doesn't work like that, right? Sometimes we completely skip few processes just to follow the deadline, or just to sometimes it's just not needed. You realize that we already know this thing, right? So why to waste time to do this process, right? So it's not like that. People, you can obviously go to and talk to mentors. So a
Mm.
very good way is to approach a person through LinkedIn, or there is ADP list, right, where
Mm.
there are good mentors which you can talk to. So I feel you should really talk to a designer and not a instructor that is teaching a UX UI
Mm.
course on that plus they are selling it in it's a very expensive course, right? But I feel without it also you can learn, right? You just have to. I feel sometimes that self-taught designers are risk takers, so they go above and beyond to learn that thing, because they are continuously at the back of their mind they're thinking that, oh, I'm not good like the person who has done a course or has a college degree in this, right? But it's not like that, right?
Mm.
So you should be just approach people. There are people who will help you out. Just approach those people and just learn that how their experience have been, right? And just try to calculate how you can place and how your strengths can eventually work in the final design flow or becoming a product designer, right?
Right. So, like, if someone wants to follow you as a mentor,
Mm-hmm.
like, where can they like find your work, your or maybe talk to you or get your mentorship in a form?
So
Are there channels?
I'm also a listed mentor on ADP list, right? So every Saturday I have few sessions booked which I take, right? So people can book a session with me through ADP list, or people can just message me on LinkedIn, right?
Mm.
And I try to help. Whenever I get time, I view people's portfolio and try to give my feedback.
Right.
Got it. We will link the courses, LinkedIn, etc., in our comment section also, so that people can really click from there and approach you. Just one last question on this entire journey. So you were working a job, then you decided to do AR, VR, do a course, record content, etc. For people to have like I want to understand the mindset behind saying कि यार मेरे को इतना काम करना है दिन में right, that is a lot of work, and once you start a career it's easier to chill back. So like what is driving you there? That could also be helpful for people.
Okay, I think this is a very tough question. I I am a very unsatisfied person. I would say it can be, when I say this can be taken in a very wrong
Mm.
direction. But I feel, I expect greatness out of me, right? And
Mm.
I cannot just live with average. So, people I stay with, people I am friends with, people in my close circle, right? I'm very mindful of people I stay with, right? So, because I know that your behavior, your attitude are affected by them, right?
Mm.
So when I'm spending my time, right, I'm very mindful of the way I do that. So I never waste my time, even if I'm enjoying, right? It is a well calculated act, I would say.
Mm.
So,
Got
so
it.
I'm a very ambitious person, bro. So, I just whenever I do not work, right? So let's say there is a holiday going on, right? I haven't worked, let's say in the past 3 4 days, right? It just kicks me hard that I have wasted my time. It's very bad. I need to step back and just enjoy, but I just can't do that because I'm like, I'm not working. And that work can be anything. Me writing an article, right? Me posting something on LinkedIn, me doing a course, right? It can be anything. Reading a case study, reading an article over Medium, right? It can be anything. I just feel that, you know I spending my time is time is very very big commodity, right? You should treat your time very valuably. It's the thing, right? And I'm just very cautious of that. So I think I just plan everything. So I have to do's for days, I have to do's for months, I have a roadmap. As I said, I treat myself as a product, right? So I have a roadmap for me to do, right? And I know that to achieve what I'm thinking, right, I cannot be comfortable, right? Comfort is the biggest killer of success, I feel, right? So I just avoid things which I feel is useless, right? So it's like that. It's not always work for me, as you said that to be continuously in that mind frame where you think you have to work, and not everyone can do that, right? It's not work for me. I think it's me. What some if someone is a singer, right, they likes to sing, they wants to sing, right? So they do that, right? It's like that for me. If
Go.
I want to, put out content, read it, write about it, work on some design, right? I'll just do it. It's not, I don't feel like it's work for me because I think what I do, I love that. Right. So I just put, every ounce of myself to do what I'm doing perfectly.
Got it.
Right.
So that's a good note to end the main section. We have a small rapid fire round,
Okay.
like just one line answers for each question. Nothing to, yeah, but I think Ashwani will start.
Yeah, so let's start. Best part about your job?
Challenges, I feel. It's very challenging.
One thing you'd like to change about your job.
Ah, okay, it's rapid fire. Mm, I think not anything which comes in my mind.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Nice.
Can AI take over your job in few years?
No.
Okay.
You want me to explain that, or?
Maybe a one-liner?
Yeah, yeah.
So obviously, I know that I've seen a lot of talks, a lot of podcasts on this, that AI will take our jobs, right? But I don't feel that, because there is a leadership or a management that goes to even manage AI, right? Like, AI will always be a good tool to have, right? As we had, let's say there's Photoshop, right? It's a very nice tool. But when Photoshop came in, all these small shops, or even e-commerce, let's say, right, there are shops which are there in the to buy clothes, right? Now you buy it online. But when e-commerce came in, we thought that okay, it will take up small shops. But now those shops, or Misho there is, right? Those small shops are listed on these platforms, right? So it has not taken your job, but has given you the power to leverage it. Not all the people understand that. But let's say if I'm a very small business owner, right, I have a fashion boutique, right? I can take that to Mintra. I can sell my clothes on Ajio, right? And that will give me an option to cater a larger audience, right? But not be all, or everyone realizes that, and they think that okay, And also there is thing that people are very afraid of learning anything new. So this they are comfortable in their space and they do not want to push ahead. So they just stay, right? So I feel that AI will not take up our job, but it will make us more efficient, right? So the way I design things, maybe with AI, maybe not, maybe I can, right? I can design it better, I can understand things better, and I can do those things in a faster way, right? So it makes me more efficient and doesn't make my job easy or takes the load off me or make me redundant.
And next question is, what is one missed opportunity that you wish you could have a second chance at, either career-wise?
uh I don't think I've missed any opportunity.
Okay.
Even even if I'm very unsure of, I just jump to take that opportunity. I do not let my brain think at that time. I I think it sometimes is bad and sometimes it's very good, but I feel that I just put myself in those challenging situations,
Hmm.
and I see that I want to see how I respond and how I react in those situations, right? And more often than not, it has helped me to learn. So I feel that professionally there hasn't been any opportunity that I have not taken. I carefully evaluate every step I take, right? And I it's a very planned decision which I take, I would say.
Hmm.
Even if I'm leaving anything, there will be a strategy, right, that has gone behind it.
Right. Last question. Alternate career you could have gone for?
Okay, I think medical, because I was a medical student and I left that for designing because I felt I wanted to always do designing. I was always this. When I was in school as well, right? I was into everything creative,
Hmm.
right? But moving on, when I came to 11th, 12th, I was this good student and everyone was like, she'll be a doctor, right? And I was also very influenced, right? I just used to imagine myself in those scenarios because obviously being a medical professional or being a doctor, right,
Hmm.
it's a very auspicious and very honorable job to have, right? And what they do, I very much relate with, right? I like to give back to the community, right, in whatever way I can. I could have been a teacher, right? I just want to, I feel that everyone should give back, right? And that is how you sustain and let the future generation learn,
Hmm.
right? Even if I'm a lead, I would want my team to become a great leader, right? Every member of the team. So I just try to train my team and try to put my team in those situations that will make them learn, right, as a leader. So I just feel that if I wasn't a product designer, I would have been a doctor.
Nice.
Go.
Also, I think this was not part of the podcast, but just that we got to know about it. How did you manage to convince everyone around you ki you don't want to do medical and you would like to shift to something which I think is still less taken career option, right?
So it wasn't an external convincing. It was more of an internal convincing because my father is super supportive,
Hmm.
right? He has been a great cheerleader for me. Anything I do, right, he knows that I'll do that good, right? So I have always received that support from my family, and I feel that it was more of an internal convincing which I did, right? Because I was leaving it all and just shifting to design. I got into NIF Delhi, and I was supposed to give medical NEET exam, right? And I just gave NIF entrance. So it was a very big step for me, but I'm glad that I took that.
Got it. I think our questions end there. Thank you so much, Kritika. This has been very, very useful.
Thank you for watching the podcast till the end.
If you have any questions or doubts for the guest, please let us know in the comments.
And if you think कि कोई question बहुत important है, do let us know ताकि we can focus more on that aspect next time.
और आप लोग थैंक यू मत कहिए, इंस्टेंट 3 लोगों से शेयर करिए और उन तीनों से कहना कि और 3 लोगों से शेयर करें, दुनिया बदल जाएगी।